This is so overdue, and I'm sorry. I don't even have my paws on today. I had a lot of work this week, so I am kind of pooped. So sorry about that. Anyways, you guys had questions? Let's answer them. Ask me anything. I dance for a living. Okay, so our first question comes from thank you for supporting my Patreon. How long have you been doing it? I have been officially working in a licensed venue for about a year. Prior to that, I was doing other facets, but not necessarily in the same more formalized way that I am now. So officially about a year. Are you self-taught? Yes. Yeah, I actually have never taken a formalized lesson on any kind of dancing that I use at work. Most of what I know I have picked up on the job from talking to other people I work with and learning from them. Will you post more videos of dancing? So here's the thing. I looked through how YouTube treat the types of dancing I do, and for what I actually do for work, which involves, Benny spinnies, I have to check if I will get slammed by the YouTube gods for showing that, even if I am fully covered, no skin showing, no boobies showing, nothing. I don't know if they're gonna let it slide. So on that one, unsure. Do you do other types of dance or other performances? No. At the moment, no. I used to do tap or jazz when I was younger, but I don't do that anymore. I just do this. Okay, that was all the questions from an anonymous submitter. The next person is from our old buddy, Ope. Ope asks, what type of prep goes into getting ready for a typical day at work as a dancer? If someone was interested in getting into the industry, what advice would you have for them? All right, so let's break down that first part of the question. What goes into a typical day? Stretching, lots of stretching, packing my dance go bag, which is a big weekender bag. I usually bring an extra set of shoes, lots of deodorant, a lot, makeup remover, multiple outfits just in case one of my outfits has a malfunction or break. I like to have backup so I'm not quite literally caught with my pants down. And the biggest one is I always keep grip, this goopy stuff you put in your hand. It helps you adhere to the device you're dancing on. And I would like to point this out for furries, because I've gotten this question a few times. If you want to do this type of dancing, do not do it in your full suit. No, fur like so is not going to grip a pole. It's just not. And what's more is if you're doing it on not your own personal pole and it's someone who actually does dancing regularly, you run the risk of getting pole grip, that sticky shit I talked about, in the fur. And I have only accidentally gotten it on this paw actually once, because my hands were still sticky from work and I didn't know. It is a nightmare to get off. So no, you can probably get away with just wearing your head. Please do not use your paws. Please do not use your full suit. You will get absolutely zero grip and might risk harming the suit. For someone who wants to get into it, what advice would I have? As pretty and as amazing as some of the videos you will see on Instagram, TikTok, what have you, will make you think this industry is I'm just gonna be a pretty dancer and everyone's gonna love me. No. Yes, some people will love you, but please also understand that as physically demanding as this job is, it is also super mentally and emotionally demanding. And if you do not have the right mental fortitude to handle regular body shaming, bad interactions, people trying to intentionally push your boundaries for the lowest amount of money they can, or if you do get very anxious at the idea of people staring at you, this ain't the job for you, bub. Find another one. This will destroy your mental health. But if you can get past all that and you can take a really bad day and just roll with it, this might be for you. What would a typical night of dancing be like? I can tell you because I just got off work. So night here where I live might be different where you live. Typically go from 6, 7 p.m. until 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, depending on where you work, you're either doing stage sets every couple of maybe 15, 30 minutes, and the rest of that time is spent interacting with customers, trying to get them to buy stuff. A typical night used to mean that you have lots of people bustling in. You'd be kind of flitting around in your often 6 to 7 inch on the low end, 8 to 12 inch on the high end heels, all over the place, going back and forth, trying to interact with everybody, and it would be kind of crazy, but worth it. Nowadays, across the board, because of the financial impact of the panini, there is no such thing as typical day. You might get a day where your venue is packed. You might get a day where there's just 2 people and they are being very snippy. It just depends. You can expect to at least have a couple of stage sets, which means you dance on the stage. Now, whether that means it's behind a bar, on a platform, on the bar itself, that depends entirely on the venue you work at. So you're either on a nice big platform, or sometimes you're behind a bar, or sometimes you're physically on a bar and you have to worry about kicking over drinks and stuff. Just depends on where you work, man. For anyone planning on visiting a venue like this, how much money should they bring and what is the general etiquette they should follow at the venue? Great question. You should bring as much money as you are comfortable saying bye-bye to in a 15-minute span. If you want to stay longer than 15 minutes, double it. If you want to stay longer than 30 minutes, double it again. Typically, if you are like at a tip rail, which is, the place where you sit, where you are expected to tip from, that could be the bar, that could be the chairs in front of the platform. It just depends on where you are. Always expect to tip someone you are actively watching, or if you are sitting at the tipping spot, at least $2 on the low end. Depending on where you go, you might be expected to tip a bit more, but as a general rule, like $2 is a good start. And then if you really want to use your best etiquette, $10 ain't bad. $10 as a tip for like services like dances that are private or anything else. 10 to 20 is like a nice gesture, and if you just want to do the bare minimum, $2. That's the bare minimum. The other big one that you should look at as etiquette is always ask dancers what their boundaries are, because it may not be what you think. Some clubs are full contact, which means you can touch whatever you want. Some clubs are not. Some clubs leave that discretion up to the performers themselves. Do not assume because you went to a club one place where you got to go booby 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 that you can do it at another one. Rules change venue to venue. So ask. Always just ask. It is much easier to get clarification than to be an asshole. Okay. Now, there was a request from Ope to share a story about a genuinely awful customer and a genuinely wonderful customer. I normally would not do something like this because I do not want, to potentially endanger my venue that I work at that I'm not naming, or my coworkers that I'm also not naming. However, in the abstract, I can tell you a consistent bad thing that happens from most customers and a consistent good thing that happens from most customers, which would happen anywhere, but I tend to bear the brunt of it most of the time. So, bad thing. I have had so many customers try to put their fingers in places they are not supposed to go. And then what I typically get as a response is, oh, well, I went to this club over here and they let me do it, so I should be allowed to do it here, right? Ask. Maybe some dancers don't super mind if you are a little handsy if you're tipping them a lot of money, but don't assume that. You should always ask. Now, one positive trait I see with a lot of customers is the person who comes in, and if I've been sitting there for a couple minutes and they want me to stay sitting there, they actually tip me for my time. Like a couple bucks here and there as we're talking to acknowledge that they know that my time is worth money, and it is. So those are just 2 of the typical things I deal with. And lastly, Labrat asked on Twitter, and I'm gonna humor this one, is what is my favorite thing to order, or my favorite takeout? And this I'm gonna actually specifically tailor to my favorite takeout while I'm working, which is veggie sushi. It doesn't matter if it's cold, it's not fish, so it won't spoil, it does not make me feel bloated on stage, and fucking delicious. So that's my favorite order while I'm working.
Okay, editing rage here. I did have to clip down some of the questions or remove them altogether. There were a few questions that came in either through DMs or were at the end of some of the things you saw here that did push the line and were not appropriate to ask, namely in regards to NSFW and being a part of content I make on other platforms I can't name. That's not appropriate and not appreciated. So in the future, just so you know, please keep questions relevant to the prompt, please. While I understand that some people are avid enjoyers of other content I may make on other platforms, please understand that that may not be the right place to ask them. Makes me very uncomfortable and is just very inappropriate and shines a light on something that, I have definitely alluded to, but may need to give more context right now about. Dancers in this profession are regularly subjected to harassment, and sometimes even abuse from clients that don't really understand that what they're getting is a fantasy. And outside of my workplace, I am not my performer name. I am not a performer. I am a human being that has to go to work, do laundry like everybody else. And once my 10-inch heels come off, I am no longer the fantasy maiden you've been staring at for sometimes up to 5 hours. So please keep that in mind when asking questions, asking about etiquette, or how do I get started, or, you know, what do your shoes look like, or can you show us some of your work shoes? Can you show us some of your favorite outfits? That's totally fine. I'm happy to tell you where I get my shoes, or, you know, great resources to start learning how to do pole dancing. But once you start to creep into the more personal aspects of my life and ask to be a part of content, which, by the way, no, or you get into like more personal details with any performer, that is where it starts to hit the no danger zone, and is something that causes many of us not to make videos like this. At the end of the day, I'm a human being under a fursuit head, just trying to pay my bills. So just keep that in mind, y'all. Thanks.
Anyways, thank you guys for the questions. I hope this was interesting and helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!